Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today, I'm looking at Bloodstrike and Brigade of the Blood Brothers crossover. Before I get started, quick shout out to all the subscribers. Channel keeps growing. Love it. Want more comments? Please comment on books you like, you don't like, you hate my voice, just whatever. All right, today I'm doing another 1993 book. I'm going to look at two at a time just because I didn't really feel like breaking these into two separate videos. These are some Liefeld Studio books. I guess it was called Extreme Studios at this point. And this was some of his year two project. Brigade over here, this is actually the ongoing series. There is a mini series that came out, and it came out more like at the end of 92. And I think it was just 3 issues. Maybe the third issue came out in 93, but I'm trying to stick to number ones or anniversary issues and whatnot, so I'm just going to go with the ongoing series number 1, and it is a tie-in with Bloodstrike number 1, the infamous Rub the Blood issue. These two books were kind of I guess you'd call them kind of like X books in a way for the Liefeld universe. They definitely tied into each other, and they tied in with Youngblood to some degree too, but they were adjacent to Youngblood. Bloodstrike number 1 was the number 39 book, and it is the prelude issue, so we will look at that one first. And Brigade number 1 was the number 33 book of the year, out of top 300 for the year. Let's start with Bloodstrike number 1 because it is part of this Blood Brothers prelude. This one has a standout cover because it has this gimmick of this blood splatter on it, and it says "Rub the Blood," and so it's kind of heat activated. And let's see if I can get it to work. I'll make the camera shake a lot because the camera's attached to the table. Yeah, you can see as I rub it, you gotta rub it pretty vigorously, and it kind of fades away. And then we'll see it comes back. So kind of a neat gimmick, I guess. Nothing else I know of really kind of did that at the time. It definitely got my attention, when I was about 15 or so years old. So I bought into this. But then again, I was into All Image at the time. This was still early on, so this says April. Yeah, I was still pretty much all into anything coming out from Image. I was getting it as long as my budget allowed, and this was one of them. And I liked this at first. Let's look at the cover. Who do we recognize? This one's funny because, anime and stuff had just kind of started to really get into the zeitgeist of the comic collectors at the time. So, it'd been around, obviously, but early 90s is when it was really starting to take hold in the American comic audience. So this character looking like Shogun, and that's the character's name, Shogun. This one, I was joking myself as I was reading it now. I was calling it Lady Mandalorian. Obviously Star Wars was still kind of in its comeback phase at the time. Liefeld is a known Star Wars nerd. If you've ever listened to his podcast or anything, he'll talk about going to see it as a kid and stuff. Clearly inspired Boba Fett helmet there. So we've got our derivatives and we're ready to jump in. Like I said, Wolverine, Cable, Shogun, Lady Mando, somebody that I don't know, but she has kind of bug eye stuff. Going in. Now, Dan Fraga is the artist on this. We got Liefeld is the creator, plot, and layouts. Dan Fraga is the penciler, and we got Eric Stevenson who does script, and I believe he does that on the Brigade series as well. And one of the biggest problems I have when reading this recently was really the scripting more than anything. This starts out kind of weird because you got him. He's here talking into a microphone, or I guess he's doing a journal entry of some sort. And then the side panel, he's climbing up, and it's curved. So I read this the other night, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this is kind of he's doing the log post. But no, the dialogue I believe was much like they were going into it. His name is Lieutenant Cabot, I believe, or Colonel Colonel Cabot. And I don't remember what his code name is, but they call him Cabot through this a couple times. Cabot, Cable, whatever. Looking very Cable-y there with a ponytail. Something about Dan Fraga on this. I always think of Dan Fraga from this era, and just out of curiosity, I was like, what else has he done? And he actually did do like some Wolverine stuff that I remember reading in the early 2000s. But when he did this, he was probably just like 19. So this is some of his earliest stuff, and he pretty much went out of high school and straight into working for Liefeld. So we got a young artist doing it now. It is over the Liefeld layouts, and you definitely see the Liefeldiness about it. For some reason, they're climbing a big sheer cliff here, even though this character can fly, as we'll find out later. They don't really give a good reason as to why they don't fly in, because now they have a teleporter. Why did they climb the wall when they have somebody that can teleport them? It introduces you to some of the characters here. What was this guy's name? See, I can't even remember it. That's how like forgettable they are. Deadlock. So the Wolverine guy's name is Deadlock. And they mention a character named Foreplay, which is the Lady Mando. She has 4 arms. We're going to see some nice wonky 4-arm stuff as we go along too. So they teleport into this base, and they speak as if they're government agents, but they also talk like they're mercenaries, like they are hired guns, which is kind of unclear to me. So already here's some wonkiness with our 4-arm character. This torso and where her arms and chest are constantly moving. So here it looks like you've definitely got like almost like a man chest here on top of a lady chest with the shoulders on both sides. Now the arms are both coming out. The lower arms are coming straight out of the armpits. Very inconsistent. Is that Liefeld or is that a young Dan Fraga? I don't know. Like I said, it is Liefeld layouts, so you're definitely going to see a lot of the, hiding of the feet. Now they're doing this rappel in. This character's name is Tag. I don't know if he says it here or later on. This is a very Liefeld-y spread. Yeah, I think it's here where he mentions her name is Tag. That's a pretty cool action shot. Some weird, like, just straight lines. Straight. So much gear. You always wonder, like, how do these guys move with the speed that they're supposedly moving with all this stuff on? He's got pouches on his boots. Both sides of his boots have a pouch. Each leg has a full strap with pouches literally going all the way around. Pouches on his vest. His shoulder pads aren't quite the size of Cable. Oh, pouches on his arm. Kind of hard to see right there. Maybe he's carrying some of her stuff because she has no pouches. Typical lady. Wants him to carry all her stuff when they go to the party. Anyway, he talks about here how he's just like, guns blazing through, and she's real graceful getting through. A little bit of blood. Now her eyes look purple. They didn't look like that there, did they? No, I guess they kind of did. I guess they did look purple there. So I feel like later on they're just orange. Anyway, and this is the guy they're kind of after. He's like the head honcho of this facility they're raiding. Not really known why. It's called Gate, but why are they raiding it? It's not really made super clear. Looks like they've been gotten the drop on when the Shogun character busts through. He's a pretty cool looking character. I mean, he's your typical big, strong guy, but he's also loaded with artillery. So he has a lot of clicking and whirring going on. I always have to have a turn the page to the side in an Image book. Not just Image, really books of this era. Marvel and DC had a lot of them. Really Marvel. DC didn't. I can't think of DC doing this sideways stuff too much, but Marvel definitely got on the sideways bandwagon. I don't know. This guy's like talking big, like, this doesn't scare us. I'd be nervous of that. He's got like these huge cannons pointed at him. Some of them have the oval shape. This all feels very Liefeld-y. Really. I don't know if because it's the Shogun character, are they trying to go for like this manga inspired layout on this spread? Perhaps. He turns out to be a hologram. Kind of a neat effect going here. I don't know that it's pulled off great, but he's kind of like, glitching out, and he's laughing at him because he wasn't really there to begin with. Because there he's getting blasted away. Killed all the guards. They jump on his back to show off the rockets, they even say. Kind of neat how they jump on the back of this guy. It's like he's got these like handlebar things that come down that they grab onto, little step pads, and then they can fly up with him. Why didn't they just fly in with him to begin with and wreck the place? I think they were trying to be stealthy, but but their stealthiness ended like super quick. Meanwhile, we go back to the Deadlock and Foreplay character wrecking up at like the outside place. He's so Wolverine-y, but then it's also Faust-like with the chin sides or the cheek parts coming down. I mean, that's a total Wolverine pose. Just erase this and this. Stick some claws out right here. You got a Wolverine. Everything about that is Wolverine. The color scheme. Look at him there. He's got the sharp teeth coming down. Has him kind of there too. It's funny. I mean, I bought into it. Like I looked at it. I remember being a kid and reading this and being like, oh, he's like Wolverine without claws. He looks like Wolverine. That's kind of cool, but kind of a ripoff too. And I guess that was also kind of like in my mind at the time, like, man, they're just kind of ripping off the Marvel stuff. Like the stuff they were doing at Marvel. Now they're just doing it over here. And it's not quite as good. Probably because they didn't have the oversight. Some people would complain about editor interference, and there's definitely cases of that. There's definitely times a good editor has kept a story more grounded and consistent. Here we go again with her arms. Now they're like even more up in her armpits. And now here, they're down, and you can even see the color of the shirt going between the armpits. Super inconsistent. Size of this robot, the Shogun character is kind of getting inconsistent. So now they reconvene with each other. Oh, now her thing is totally purple. It doesn't even have the whole... I thought something happened with her eyes. Yeah. So here she's got like yellow outline. Kind of hard to tell there if she's supposed to have that kind of outline going there. She kind of has it. No, I don't think so. That might be the only panel that they show her where she's got this outline around it. But now the outline's gone. And this guy returns. This time he's not a hologram. And it turns out like he knows the name of this guy, which he said back at the hologram part, which freaked him out because he's like, how do you know my name? This has gone sideways. It doesn't make sense that they know my name. Let's just get out of here. And he's like, of course I know your name. Like, I run this facility. I've been the head of the security of this facility for so long. And I got wind that they're wanting to push me out. So I hired you to come attack this place so that I could defend it and show them that I still have my worth. Kind of an interesting twist, I guess. Except we still don't understand what this facility is about. As far as I know, that's not something that's been explained in any of the Youngblood stuff. Maybe it was. Maybe it was explained in the previous Brigade series. I jumped into this now on this series, and my recollection of all that stuff from when I read it back in the 90s is pretty much gone. I'm lucky if I remember a few of the characters' names, much less the plot points. So just jumping into this, I'm like, why are they raiding this facility? I guess I'm just supposed to assume it's like a Hydra type facility. And these guys, they talk like they're mercenaries, but they also talk like they work for the government. So there's a little confusion there. Anyway, he lets that drop, and then he shoots the Cabot guy. And somewhere in here too, where was it? I forgot to mention that altogether. Here it is. It's on this page, I think. This is before they talk to the hologram guy. And he says, like, stupid flashbacks, always hitting me at the worst times, reminding me of things I did back when I was still alive. At least he is like a reincarnated person, I guess. I don't know. It's like they don't explain any of that in this issue. That is the only hint that you get up until here when he gets shot and he appears to be dead, but he gets back up. And that's implying that, like, he can't be killed again because he's kind of already dead. I guess it's, given some intrigue there. Makes you... More of that should have been dropped, I feel like, in this book. But I think when I read this the other night first, and I was like, they need to get more into that in this issue. But I think that might have been the crux of the this Blood Brothers storyline as I jump into the next book. Now this guy who was like very big before is like the size of a child. He pulls out his lightsaber staff. Looks like the Union character has that same kind of just like energy bow staff. And he's about to try to take out Cabot again. And this is where this tag character, where they really mention what she can do. When she touches people, they basically freeze. They can talk, but they're stuck in place. Oh, look, her outline. The outline of her eyes are back. And they can freeze. So he's kind of stuck in motion. And then they have the Shogun character just blast him out. This is a weird panel to show that. Lots of kablams. Lots of splorches. And then we get a whir because he emptied out his Gatling cannons, shoulder cannons there. What is this cylinder thing? Is it a cylinder or is it just like a big giant buckle? I feel like Cable used to wear something like that too. What is that? He's got a pouch on the front of his pocket. Is that there? Now I want to see if that's consistent the whole time. Yeah, it is there. So at least that's kind of consistent. I think that's one of the problems with making these costumes so crazy looking like that, is it is hard to keep it. I would think it's a little tough, challenging to keep it consistent throughout a book or multiple issues. Because you just kind of forget, like, does he have a strap on one leg or both legs? Like, see there? Yeah, see, he has that pocket there, but he has one strap on that leg and nothing on that leg other than that one pocket. And then he's the easiest one to pick on because so there, one strap and his pocket, consistent. But when we get to that big splash page, two straps. Anyhow, they get back to their base, and he's kind of going over the mission log. So that's what, like, he's back in the chair like he was at the start of the issue, holding his little microphone or recorder. And then, the wind must be blowing. The air conditioner is going hard because his ponytail is flopping around. What's going on with his hair right there? It's almost like he has short hair, but with the ponytail in the back. Anyhow, basically they're getting their next mission, and it's Brigade. To be continued in Brigade number 1. Note the trencher ad, black and white trencher ad. So this was in April of 93, and then we go into the Brigade book, which is in May. So this is kind of like a month later. I don't remember if these books were like supposed to be bi-monthly and like alternate one issue with the other, or if they were going to come out monthly. Anyway, Brigade number 1, ongoing series. This isn't the first Brigade. Has a nice big gatefold wraparound cover. And looking here, like you can see Bloodstrike on this side and kind of the edge of the Cabot character. I don't know if the next issue, because I don't have it, was supposed to be like a gatefold that connects to this too and makes it like even bigger. It would make sense if it was. For Bloodstrike number 2, let's see. We got the Brigade Zero advertise. Let's see. When did that come out? Okay, so Brigade Zero is going to come out the following month. So was there going to be 2 issues of Brigade that month? Or were you going to get Brigade number 0 and Bloodstrike number 2? Were you going to get Brigade 0 and number 2 at the same time? That was part of the problem with Image, I felt like, is it was so haphazard, so helter-skelter. Yet. And that's where you saw like these young guys were running this business that they knew the creation side of it. They didn't really understand all the ins and outs of the promotion side of it. They understood it enough to make it blow up and sell a bunch of books early. What they didn't understand was how to maintain that and not drive people away quickly. Again, we got Rob Liefeld as the creator and co-plotter. The penciler and co-plotter is Merritt Michaels. Merritt or Marriott. And Eric Stevenson on the dialogue again. Again, I didn't really point out a lot of the bad dialogue in the other one, but this one is like 1,000 times worse. If it jumps out at me, I'll point it out. But just know, the dialogue in this is terrible. The way these characters interact with each other is just... It's... Cliche isn't even the word. It's like a teenager wrote it or something. But if a teenager writes something, it usually doesn't appeal to other teenagers because it's bad. Anyway, the Brigade team. Don't really remember much of the mini-series of that either. I did get it at the time. So unless they're mentioned in this book, I don't remember most of the characters' names. All I can say is this is Booster Gold. This is Batman Silverhawk right there. Here you got your big guy, who in this case is kind of like, I guess he's ice. He's an Iceman. Maybe that's this guy, as his powers gets amped up later on. Because that character, I don't think that big ice guy, this guy doesn't appear in the book. I actually kind of liked the art in this. The coloring is a little wonky. But I like the art in this a little bit better. It did not say Liefeld layouts on this. So I don't know what Mr. Michael's background was before this. Like I said, Dan Frago was probably just a teenager, so Liefeld still did the layouts, but he didn't do it here. So they're returning from whatever mission, whatever they did in the miniseries. One of the main characters, not main characters, but one of the characters in that book died, and they're getting off, and this is the stuff where he's like, so their leader, Battlestone, he's just going to get off, and he's kind of pouting, I guess, where the guy died, and then this other guy's calling him out, like, you're just not even going to give us a briefing or anything. He's like, your point being, like, my point is that you're the leader of this team, and you're just kind of pouting and walking away. So they're having a little scuffle. This chick gets mad, and then she's like, I'm out of here because, yeah, you let him die, and it's your fault, and, you know, this is messed up. I'm off of this team. And as she's walking out, blam, shot in the head. And look who it is. We're back to Bloodstrike right off the bat. That's kind of cool, though, right? I mean, we're jumping right back into it. This is technically part 1 of the story. The other one was like a prelude. The other one was just to introduce us to the Bloodstrike team and then set them on the path to intercept this brigade. So they kind of toned down what they could have done right there with her headshot. I mean, her headshot's there, and there's like blood flying away as she goes backwards. But there, maybe they just messed up the coloring or reverted back to, what they know at Marvel and kind of obscured the gunshot to the head. They didn't make it all bloody like they could have. Eyes are rolled up in the back of her head, though. But anyway, here's where you got some of your terrible dialogue. You got your forearm character, who I guess here she's giant. I don't remember her being quite that big in the other book. Maybe she was. She was always with him, who's kind of short because he's the Wolverine character. There, her eyes don't have maybe they kind of have that thing around him again. He doesn't have his pocket right there. His little cylinder buckle thing in the front is sideways now. I mean, they've changed clothes, I guess. He felt he didn't need the extra pouches for this mission. All right, so now they just have a big fight, and this is where more of the terrible dialogue, especially these two. She calls him, "My name's Foreplay Chinaman," and he's like, "I'm Japanese. Best you remember it." And then you have the Shogun, who you don't know I don't know if this is a robot or a person in the suit or like the essence of a person in a robot suit. They don't explain it. So, but you got this character named Shogun that's a big robot, Japanese looking robot. Anyway, pretty much this fight breaks out. Okay, so here's the ice guy. So I guess he gets kind of blasted. Something happens to him. Maybe he doesn't really have powers, but his stuff gets blasted. Man, he looks like Booster Gold. And his ice stuff starts like going all over him, like he's losing control. So he's kind of taken out. The fire girl gets taken out. Here comes the Batman character to help her out. The Wolverine character gets the drop on him, and we've got blam 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 blam. This little tiny gun has all that going on. No fire or anything, or like lines of the shot going by, just a bunch of blams. We're losing our backgrounds as we go along. Pretty generic machine background, metal panels. Basically, Bloodstrike has got the drop on Brigade, kind of caught him unawares. Here's where the tag character comes in, where the Cabot and what's his name again? Battle Blood. What's his name? What is his name? Oh, Battlestone. Okay, Battlestone. I want to call him Bloodstone. I want to call him all kinds of things, but Battlestone and Cabot they're kind of like hinting that they know each other, that they have some kind of connection. When they call each other brother, they say it in parentheses though. So I don't think they're actual brothers. They were on like a team together of some sort and have some sort of connection in that way. But, you know, this is where the tag character comes in, and she tags Battlestone enough for Cabot to like kind of get the drop on him. But he somehow gets out of it again, and he mentions that when she does the trick, he's like, "Neat trick. I'll use it sometime." So I don't remember what his powers were exactly. Maybe he can like kind of mimic other people's powers that he's near. But he ends up using it here. So he's like, "See, I told you I'd use it sometime." And he uses her power against her. And they escape. He escapes with the fire girl who picks up the ice guy, and he picks up the girl that got shot in the head at the very beginning, and they escape. And you know, how do they escape without them chasing out? I mean, this guy has rockets and major cannons. He could just shoot them down if he wanted to. And again, in this book, it seems like these people work for the government. And I don't know who Brigade works for. None of that is explained. None of it makes sense. It's not like this is established where like, oh, here's the Avengers and here's the X-Men and they're fighting each other. I know those two teams. I really don't know anything about them. And that's where trying to keep up with this, I think, is a failing on the storytelling of the Liefeld books in particular, you know, Image as a whole. They didn't have somebody there saying like, hey, we need to tighten this up so that like the people jumping on understand what's happening. And that's where like Valiant at the time excelled at. That's where Jim Shooter came in handy of like, we're going to introduce these characters. And it wasn't so much like the Marvel books of the 80s where like every issue they said their names, they said their powers, they said their motivations, blah, blah, blah. But they established the characters enough almost in every issue that you could pick it up and feel like, okay, I know what's going on. But in this, you're just like, oh, we've got two of these like mercenary government teams with they're built kind of the same way, with like a cable type leader, a big strong guy in the back, maybe a wild card. Excuse me. A wild card, loose cannon Wolverine type, and you know, a fire guy, an ice guy, whatever. Because even on this team, you've got, instead of Wolverine, you got Batman. But he's kind of a similar, I mean, at least in the book, he's kind of doing a similar thing, which is why I guess they pitted them against each other. Anyway, Brigade gets away, even though the Shogun guy could have gone after him and shot the ship down. This guy shows up. Who is this guy? I don't know. He wasn't in any of the previous discussion of this book. He just shows up and is able to save him. The fire girl here is wondering why they even took the girl in the green that got shot. And he's like, I'll take him to this dude who, I forget what his name was, but, you know, this is where you kind of get some of that stuff that was set up in Bloodstrike as well, because he's saying, what am I supposed to do with the corpse? He's like, you know full well what needs to be done with her, Sandler. That's that guy's name, Sandler. And he's like, oh, I suppose I do. I also know that it will cost you more than any favor I could ever owe you. And he's like, just do it. That's where some of this is just silly. Now, here it comes up. This is a good one too. So he's reminiscing about what just happened with the guy in the miniseries that died, and then again with the girl right now. And she comes up to talk to him. She's like, that Sandler guy wants to see you. Why don't you save it for someone who cares, Thermal? It's like, what is that even? Why does he snap at her like that? He's brought them to see this dude. He's in charge, and he's like, save it for somebody that cares. Like, I mean, that's the terrible dialogue. And this is consistent throughout this issue, that when I was reading it, I had a really hard time with the dialogue in this, because it is awful. It's awful. Anyway, and they have their like super melodramatic dialogue about what's going on, why this guy's smarmy, but he's here to help. And there's the girl, Thermal. She's in this thing, and basically he's bringing her back to life. It sounds like he's doing to her what was implied was done to the Bloodstrike team in the Bloodstrike book. And then this guy, I don't want to say he's like their Professor X, because he doesn't seem like he's in charge of anything. I don't know who he is. He's the guy in the chair. Anyway, he's like, two people don't make a team until these other two recover. So he goes out to recruit, and he recruits this Gambit type character who's robbing something, I guess, or he's infiltrating something else too. Looks like kind of the same outfits as the people that the Bloodstrike book was infiltrating too. Doesn't really say. You just know he's fighting somebody, and he's got a microchip character, like Punisher's microchip guy. He's got that guy. He's got a man in the chair. So Battlestone shows up and is like, you know, what's up, dude? Whatever his name is. This was kind of a neat sequence. I don't know if it's fully executed perfectly. Again, though, we have like, he's rolling and it says blam, but there's no like fire coming off of the gun or anything. You see it hit on the Hydra agents, the faux Hydra agents, or AIM, whatever you want to, whatever nefarious group you want to assign to these guys. Anyway, let's see. What's his name? Does he say his name here? Boone. His name was Boone. So he's here to recruit Boone. And it's to be continued in Bloodstrike number 2. I won't get. These are found often in dollar boxes. The Rub the Blood cover is kind of a neat one to have. You can tell I just got a beater copy that's dinged up because I just kind of wanted to review it for this series, but it's kind of a neat one to have for the novelty of the Rub the Blood cover. Nothing about this storyline made me want to like pick up the next issues. And let's see, this came out in May. It was by midsummer that I was jumping off the Image stuff, except for like, you know, I stuck with Spawn a little longer. I was jumping off the Liefeld stuff already at this point. The Jim Lee stuff was not far behind, and I would say the Liefeld stuff was the stuff I jumped off first because they were doing this kind of stuff. Everything was a #1. They tried to do all these tie-ins. They mentioned Youngblood a lot, so there's connective tissue between them enough that makes you think that there's like some universe building going on, but everything is so vague and bland in the motivations of the characters. Even me as a teenager was like, this isn't very good. And, you know, other stuff going on, even the stuff going on in like Spider-Man and X-Men at the time, which probably isn't like, you know, peak of those books either, was more interesting and more engaging than this stuff. So anyway, you know, dollar bin finds, 50-cent finds even, maybe. Rub the Blood, nice novelty to have in a collection if you're into gimmick covers. This one, I liked the art a little better in it. Dialogue in both is terrible. Typical inconsistencies in the Liefeld-esque art and design stuff. And that's all I can really say about these. So until next time, read your comics.